Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we are doing a reaction to the Everton defeat at Goodison Park at the hands of Manchester United in front of a raucous Goodison crowd. Obviously, a lot more at play beyond just the game itself. But look, I mean, if we want to sum this game up, Manchester United scoring a bunch of timely goals to cancel out, all the external. And then, Everton had their few chances, weren't able to capitalise, as has been the case for many games this season, and then ultimately Manchester United put the game to bed. A severe quality difference when you look at what we've missed in terms of opportunities and the goals that they scored. I mean, especially that Garnacho goal, that has to be one of the best goals I've ever seen. I mean, fair play to United, strong defensive team performance by them today, but for us, we just obviously need to go back to the drawing board because this is one that, it was a real dampener. I think there's a really good way to sum this up. In the 5 home defeats at Goodison Park this season, Everton have had 18 big chances and have only converted 1. There were a number of key chances today. We talk about the Doucouré chance when he was set up basically directly in front of goal. DCL had a couple of headers that went over the top of the crossbar. I mean, it was a great response after a start that had us all shell-shocked because of the sheer brilliance of that Garnacho goal. I do think that we enforced the press well. We started to execute that and be more aggressive with it. It led to more Manchester United errors, and we were getting the ball in a lot more advanced areas and could do a lot of work with that. I think by the game's end, we had more touches in the opposing box. We had way more shots. A lot of those low percentage, but shots nonetheless. So it was good to be, generating these opportunities, but we had quite a few sitters. I mean, there was one cleared off the goal line by Kobe Mainu, who was excellent for Manchester United today. I think he was a great defensive anchor on debut, I think. So he really bossed the midfield. You could see Everton had a bit of a hole in the midfield. Garner Gay and James Garner are very much a similar type of player. We were missing the complementary piece that, Garner Gay is smaller in stature, but I think that's really symbolic of the imposing threat that, we were missing. At times, Garner Gay did go missing, and being a smaller stature, it's very easy to become unnoticed. And at times today, Garner Gay was turning the ball over. Same with James Garner. I think a number of key players, especially in that attacking third, we were lacking a bit of connectedness and cohesion. But look, the result doesn't do the performance justice for Everton. I think we were pretty firm and stable for the majority of the game. That attacking impetus was lacking. But that being said, I mean, the goals we conceded were incredibly rough, very stiff. We talk about the second goal. Ashley Young, I mean, this guy has just proven time and time again to cost us games or place us in a position where we, can pay the price. And today, I mean, the foul was very soft, but the foul was there. The interesting thing I have to take away from that call, if they were good enough to overturn the decision and overturn the yellow card, then why did Ashley Young not get sent off? I mean, it was in a very vulnerable spot. You could say that they would have had a shot on goal if it wasn't for that challenge. It was in the penalty box. So I'm very surprised that a yellow card was not issued. Speaking of yellow cards, though, I think the referees were a bit scared to give Manchester United a yellow card. There were a couple of occasions where I think later in the first half, for example, there was one where Harrison was, caught on the shin or the ankle, one or the other. Play continued, maybe 2 passes. The advantage was absolutely not there because the pass was horrific, but the play continued. It wasn't brought back. So the referees had a bit of a stinker. I'm not saying that one chance dictated the whole game because we shipped off 3, but that being said, there were a number of yellow cards, and as an Evertonian, you were like, when are Manchester United actually going to get hit with one? That changes the way players go about their game if they are, walking a tightrope, in essence, because they don't have much leeway, having been already issued a yellow card. A yellow card can make the world of difference. It's tough to give a player of the game from an Everton perspective. You think about the back four, they gave away 3 goals. I mean, probably a little bit stiff to do so, and a lot of other oppositions aren't scoring, the way they did. The midfield, I mean, they struggled a fair bit with tempo. At times got caught out. There were a few gaps opening up later in the game. And the front line obviously didn't execute, and that's what is essential to win a game of football. But I'm going to hand player of the game to DCL because I think in the time we needed a response, I think he did a lot in his power to get us back in that game. There were moments where he was very good at holding up the play. He found the balance between carrying the ball forward and then waiting for those supporting runs to, serve as an outlet, and he would give it to them. That's how we got the Decore shot on goal. So there were quite a few chances that were a byproduct of DCL's play, and that's the kind of chances we required to get back into the game, especially after a slow 25-minute start. It was just the end product for him. And I think that's going to come with, a lot of time, or a bit more time, and on a game-by-game basis. But I think DCL today was pretty good at what he did. There wasn't a particularly good standout performer, but I think DCL did a very good job. As much as he could have, he got in the right places. We talk about those headers that he missed. That doesn't arise if you're in the wrong position. He was getting in the right spots. It was just the end product. And I think you have to pay Manchester United some credit for their defensive work, because I think Harry Maguire and Lindelof, even though they got caught out on occasion, there were times where that physicality that they presented was key in cutting out those opportunities that DCL could have had, if it wasn't for their presence. I do think one problem that has been swept under the rug and probably has surfaced a little bit more because of the result today, is the wingers. The wingers are an interesting discussion altogether, because Dwight McNeil had a really poor game. Piss poor game. I mean, he didn't really do anything. It didn't help that the system was sort of isolating him on one side, and he wasn't near the play whatsoever, attacking wise, and that's probably where he goes to work the most. But Jack Harrison had a fair bulk of the responsibility, and he did some good things, but it was very inconsistent what he did do. And I do think he sort of shirked at those situations where he could have been a little bit more assertive, maybe get a shot off, maybe whip in across earlier and quicker, that sort of thing. So I think the wingers, that they need to do more. I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, they're doing their job because they're running, and they're applying, the defensive mechanisms that Dyche wants to implement. I think it's more than that now. We need some attacking impetus. Like in a game like this, Danjuma would have been an interesting option earlier in the game. We waited till the 72nd minute to get that done. Yeah, I think he waited a bit too long on that McNeil substitute. It's going to be interesting to see what the changes are. I don't think that Dyche is going to change those two. The result has amplified an issue today, but if we had a better result, I think we would be arguing that they were a part of the system that got it done. So it's going to be interesting to see if Dyche can strike that balance. As for other changes that I want to see going forward, Onana, we sorely missed. We're going to see him back. I mean, if today didn't display the importance of Onana, then I don't know what does. Garnacho wasn't too bad. I don't think he was one of our worst. But that being said, the difference in skill level and obviously the stature, plays a big part. You've got that aerial presence. And even though Onana had a pretty off game against Palace, for a more physically imposing opposition today, and the way that Manchester United were able to be very effective with their passing play, I do think an equally physically imposing body in Onana could really hold this tiki-taka passing accountable and make it much more difficult for those passes to get off. Obviously, he's got longer strides. He can cover more space. He's just a bigger body, so it makes things a lot more difficult when you're trying to navigate through a player like him. Though what actually needs to change and what is something that you can foresee happening, Ashley Young needs to go. I mean, he needs to be shown the same keen treatment, because there's been, like, the Anfield game. I mean, you talk about the Brighton game. The Brighton game was a little bit unlucky, but, we can say the same today. That goal, the second goal, was probably the nail in the coffin, the final nail in the coffin. And look, we had been pushing for probably 20 to 25, 30 minutes. So that second goal basically put it out of reach. If we scored one, as a byproduct of that momentum we had gathered in that middle portion of the game, well, anything could have happened. But that second goal was a dampener, and it was on the back of Ashley Young's mistake. As much as he wants to say that he probably was trying to get out of the way, why would I want to commit a foul right there? That being said, I mean, they made a case for it, or they had a case for it, and once the referee went to the monitor, you just knew. So the suitable time to get rid of him was long ago, but the next best time is now. He's making mistakes, and he's getting, well, he's on thin ice from about the 20th minute because he gets hit with a yellow card, and it's probably not the right call. But that being said, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. So pushing all the game stuff to the side, I think was a very good gesture by the Everton faithful with all those posters, the fireworks. I mean, we saw the plane a day ago with Man City, Liverpool. There's been a lot of vocality with regards to, how this Everton fan base are advocating for, well, justice, essentially. And look, I think it's a very poignant gesture. I think it was effective. I think, the crowd were raucous. I think that was expected, but it was needed and it was required. So I think that, I mean, the protests aren't going to do anything, but it's far better to actually do something about it than just to lie down and say that it's okay. Because it's not. When we talk about other teams potentially, warranting a little bit of punishment given their actions, 100% it's corrupt. And I think, what we've done today is a very good step in the right direction. Is it the only step as a part of that process? I think so, but we've got to do something rather than nothing. I think that's what it's a matter of. I mean, once that goal went in though, I think it silenced that atmosphere that was circulating around Goodison, the tension that had built. It was good to see it, the same actions being reinforced throughout the game, where the signs were held up at the 10th minute. The boos were pretty loud. You could hear the fireworks on the broadcast. All those little touches have a lasting impact. But that's going to do it from me. We've got Nottingham Forest next. I hope the changes that I've suggested get acted upon. Who knows if that's actually going to happen. Nottingham Forest are a very difficult opposition at their home ground, and that's where we're going to play them. But the last time we went there, it was a 2-2 draw. We probably should have taken more. But that being said, I mean, we're going to need to bounce back. And obviously there's a bit more fire in the belly with the position we now sit in. Obviously, it's out of our control. But I'm very excited to see the response. I think this team's got it in them. They're not lacking heart. Years ago, or maybe in the last 2 years, a 3-0 result would have resulted in people wanting to, well, sack the coach. There would be a severe lack of unity amongst the fan base. It's very strange that, after a 3-0 defeat, we're talking about the performance being not as bad as the scoreboard would indicate. And obviously there's still, brighter things ahead, which is a very interesting stance to take. But let me know your thoughts. We will see you in the next one. Make sure to drop a like on the way out and subscribe as well if you're new. We do this every week. So hope you enjoyed. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.